Imagine this. You're standing in a grand medieval castle. The stone walls tower around you, adorned with rich tapestries depicting epic battles and noble lineages. The air is thick with the smell of smoke from roaring fireplaces and something else, something pungent and musky. Now picture the king or queen of this magnificent fortress. They're draped in fine silk robes embroidered with gold thread and encrusted with precious jewels. Every inch of their appearance screams opulence and grandeur. But here's the kicker. Beneath those layers of luxury lies a very dirty secret. Literally, despite all their riches, medieval royalty bathed far less than you'd expect. And when I say less, I mean sometimes only a few times a year. Yes, you heard that right. These were the people who could afford anything, yet they avoided baths like the plague, pun intended. So why on earth would the wealthiest individuals of the Middle Ages shun something as basic as bathing? Was it sheer laziness? Or was there something deeper at play? To unravel this mystery, we need to step back in time, to an era where science was in its infancy and superstitions ruled the day. You see, people in the medieval period held some pretty peculiar beliefs about health and the human body. It was widely thought that water could open up the pores and allow harmful diseases to seep into the body. Bathing too often wasn't just frowned upon, it was seen as downright dangerous. Instead of regular baths, folks focused on other ways to stay clean, or at least appear clean. And that's where things get interesting. If you had endless riches and everyone told you that taking a bath might kill you, would you risk it? Probably not, right? This brings us to the concept of old money and how wealth influences behavior. Back in the Middle Ages, royalty set the trends. Their habits trickled down to the rest of society. Surprisingly, even today we see echoes of these practices in modern luxury, perfumes, lotions, and expensive fabrics. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered what life was really like for the rich and powerful centuries ago? What did they value? What did they fear? We're about to uncover the truth, and trust me, it's stranger than fiction. Let's clear something up right away. The idea that medieval people never bathed is a myth, a misconception that's been perpetuated over time. In reality, many commoners washed regularly. They might not have had bathtubs like we do today, but they used rivers, lakes, and basins. So, where does this misconception come from? Part of it stems from our tendency to romanticize, or rather, deromanticize, the Middle Ages as a time of filth and squalor. Public bathhouses were quite popular in medieval Europe. These weren't just places to get clean, they were social hubs. However, over time, bathhouses began to disappear. Church leaders started viewing them with suspicion, associating them with immoral behavior. Consequently, they fell out of favor, especially among the wealthy and the nobility. This shift had a significant impact. While peasants continued washing in rivers or using simple basins, royalty took a different path. Their physicians warned against frequent bathing, believing water could open the body's pores to diseases. Imagine being told that taking a bath could make you sick or even kill you. Would you risk it? Probably not, especially if you had other means to maintain cleanliness. Royalty, with their vast resources, definitely had options. They replaced baths with elaborate rituals. Washing hands and faces daily became the norm. They frequently changed linen undergarments chosen for their ability to absorb sweat and impurities. This practice was both hygienic and a symbol of wealth. Peasants couldn't afford expensive linens or imported perfumes. They relied on practical solutions like rinsing off in streams after a long day in the fields. Their approach was less about luxury and more about necessity. This contrast between rich and poor reveals something important about old money habits. Even back then, wealth influenced behavior. Cleanliness was a status symbol, but not in the way we think of it today. Instead of scrubbing themselves clean, they focused on appearances. Perfumed gloves, scented oils, and elaborate clothing became tools to project an image of purity and sophistication. What does this tell us about hygiene in the Middle Ages? It shows that cleanliness wasn't just about health. It was intertwined with culture, class, and perception. These ideas shaped daily life in ways that still echo in modern society. Before we move forward, ask yourself, if you lived during that time, would you trust your doctor's advice? Or would you follow your instincts and take a bath anyway? Our choices are often reflections of our environment and the information we have. So how did medieval royalty maintain the illusion of freshness without regular baths? The answer lies in their ingenuity and resourcefulness. They developed a suite of rituals and tools to mask odors and project cleanliness. One solution was perfumes. Royalty had a penchant for scented oils, with perfume making being an art using exotic ingredients like ambergris, musk, and frankincense. Perfumes masked natural odors due to infrequent bathing. Yet perfumes were just the tip of the iceberg. Linen shifts became game changers. These undergarments worn close to the skin were changed frequently to absorb sweat, keeping outer garments and the body somewhat fresh. Only the wealthy could afford multiple sets of fine linen. So wearing fresh linen every day wasn't just about hygiene. It was a powerful way for royalty to flaunt wealth and social standing. Let's talk about perfumed gloves. Medieval royalty often wore gloves scented with aromatic herbs and oils. These gloves kept the hands soft and acted as personal air fresheners. It's recorded that Queen Elizabeth I was fond of perfumed gloves. But the quest for freshness didn't stop there. Royals also used powders and pastes to keep their skin looking clean and healthy. Mixtures made from herbs like mint, chamomile, or marigold soothed skin and imparted scent. Then there was the ultimate luxury: portable toilets or close stools. Even in the Middle Ages, the wealthy sought convenience. These ornate chairs with removable chamber pots allowed royalty to attend to nature's call privately. None of these methods were foolproof. Lice, fleas, and other pests were rampant, even among the elite. People sometimes shaved their heads and wore wigs, a fashionable practice in later centuries, to combat lice. With all these measures, why didn't they just bathe more often? The reality is they believed they were doing the right thing for their health. Their doctors warned them of the dangers of bathing, and they followed the best advice available. This brings us back to old money habits. Many of these practices weren't about hygiene in the modern sense. They were about maintaining appearances and adhering to societal norms. Cleanliness was a performance. Even today, we see echoes of this mindset. Expensive skincare routines, designer fragrances, and tailored clothing are ways people display status. The difference now is we value actual cleanliness, thanks to medical science. Before we delve into the consequences of these practices, consider this. How do you feel about these medieval hacks? Would you trade your shower for perfumed gloves and linen changes? Our ancestors were resourceful, working with what they had to solve problems creatively. Their solutions often came with unintended consequences, and that's where we're headed next, into the darker side of medieval life. Now, let's discuss the consequences of medieval hygiene practices. While royalty appeared clean and smelled pleasant, they weren't immune to the downsides of infrequent bathing. Their choices often exacerbated problems. Lice infestations were pervasive. Lice were not just a nuisance, they carried diseases and caused discomfort. To combat them, people sometimes shaved their heads and wore wigs, a fashionable practice in later centuries. Fleas posed an even greater threat. They were primary carriers of Yersinia pestis, the bacterium responsible for the bubonic plague, which decimated Europe's population multiple times between the 14th and 17th centuries. Poor hygiene and sanitation created ideal conditions for the spread of diseases. The buildup of dirt, sweat, and grime led to skin infections. The lack of understanding about germs meant people unknowingly spread diseases. The stench was undeniable. Perfumes could mask odors temporarily, but they didn't eliminate the causes. The combination of unwashed bodies, dirty clothes, and waste from chamber pots contributed to a ripe environment. Ironically, while they avoided bathing to prevent illness, their knowledge of sanitation meant water sources were often contaminated. This led to outbreaks of diseases like dysentery and cholera. This brings us full circle to privilege and choice. Despite wealth, royalty couldn't escape poor hygiene consequences. Their adherence to flawed medical advice and cultural norms left them vulnerable. Comparing this to modern times, we appreciate how science and public health advancements have transformed hygiene understanding. Today, regular bathing and proper sanitation are foundational to health. But let's not be too quick to judge. Our ancestors did their best with the knowledge they had. It raises an intriguing question. What current beliefs and practices might future generations view skeptically? Understanding the history of hygiene and its connection to wealth and culture offers valuable insights into human behavior. It highlights the impact of societal norms on personal choices and questioning prevailing beliefs. The legacy of medieval hygiene lives on. Modern spa traditions and luxury skincare routines have roots in ancient practices. Aromatherapy, herbal remedies, and natural ingredients in beauty products harken back to medieval times. Similarly, using fashion and adornment to signify social standing continues today. Designer clothing, high-end accessories, and exclusive fragrances are modern equivalents of the elaborate garments and scented gloves of medieval royalty. As we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What surprised you the most about medieval hygiene practices? Would you consider adopting any methods, or do you prefer modern conveniences? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dirty secrets of medieval royalty, give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Next time you step into a shower or bath, take a moment to appreciate how far we've come. Modern hygiene is a luxury we often take for granted, but it's a testament to human ingenuity and our capacity to evolve. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the weird and wonderful stories of history.